Hey guys, welcome back. We are going to start the Simple RPG in Unity 5 series off with setting up the scene. We're going to design a very small level using some assets from the asset store, just one package, and it comes with all the models you saw in the introduction video and a ton more models. But we're going to keep it very simple with just a few things to give us something to play around with. And then we're going to set up the character movement for the player in this episode as well. So let's go ahead and get started with that. First of all, I'm going to go to Window and I'm going to open up the Asset Store. Just so I can grab those models real quick. And in the search bar, I'm going to type in low poly. Now, it may not be where it is now for me, depending on when you're watching this. So I'm going to leave a link in the description so you can grab these if you want to follow along. And I'm just going to import. There's a lot of models in here that's great for prototyping, and I think it's going to be nice to have something that looks a bit more complete in this series. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I'm going to throw the level together. It's very simple. I'm just going to be doing just dragging and dropping prefabs from the folder out into the scene view and set up a couple lights. And that's going to be pretty much it. So I probably fast forward through a lot of that just to speed up the process. So I'm going to close out the asset store. And here I am in the scene view. My directional light, will leave it like it is for now. But I'm going to go ahead and add an empty object. I'm going to call it environment. And we're going to put our level inside of this empty object. You could break it down however you want. If you have sections of your environment that you want to be on different objects, do it however you want to. But for this, I'm just going to keep it all in the environment. And I'm going to start out first of all with just a ground. And I'm going to create a cube for that. I'm just going to use a cube. It's interesting. And the cube, I'm going to just scale it up. Let's see, what do we think? We'll do 15 by 15 for now. Just something to work with. Grab my camera, and I'm going to pull it up a bit so we can see the ground. Rotate it just like that. There we go. And I want to call this ground. And I want to go in my assets folder real quick and create a folder for materials that we're going to define. And the first material, I want to create material. I'm going to call it ground. Ground grass. Make it a green color. We'll match this to the grass that comes in the asset. But for now, we'll just do that and drop it on ground. Just like that. I'm going to pull my camera up just a bit because you're seeing the edge of the world there. And we'll move all this around later on, I'm sure. So with the ground set up, I'm going to go ahead and grab it and scale it a bit more. Just like that there. Pretty good. And go in my low poly folder, and I'm going to grab a few things. The first thing I want is we're going to set up the cave that you saw in the demo. Just search for cave. I want to grab it, drag it out, and place it in the map here. Now notice it's going to be too big, so we're going to scale the ground up a bit more too. But let's just place this. We're going to scale things to the cave, keep the cave at the scale it's at, and just scale everything else to the cave. It depends on your assets, how you're working with it, but this is going to work fine for us. Just like that, and I'm going to bring the cave down a bit. You can see it has a ground plane. We're just going to hide that ground plane under our ground plane. Just like that. And rotate it a bit more. Just like that. And in the demo we had a dirt ground in the cave. I'm just going to type in dirt and show all the dirt things. Cave dirt, so we just had uneven ground. We'll use that, and we'll place it in the cave. And we're going to scale this up so it goes in the cave and looks fine. Then raise that up. And I would hope you would spend more time on yours than I'm spending on mine, but we just want it to look okay. And now we want the dirt mountain. I believe there's a dirt mountain. And that's grass. We don't want a grass. Oh, here it is. Dirt hill. I'm going to place it off to the side of the cave here. So you rotate it around. Do something like this is fine. Bring it in. Scale it up a little bit. And lift it up a little bit. Looks pretty good. And then I'm going to throw... I'm kind of just winging this. I don't really know how I want it to look now. I know what we had before, but it doesn't have to look exactly the same, does it? I'm going to grab this pine tree. Scale it up. And clearly we're not going for realistic style or anything, so we don't have to do anything to scale. It doesn't really matter. We're just doing it however we want it to be done. I'm going to draw it first before I start placing stuff in here. If I was making a serious level. This is too serious, right? You just go straight up. It's a miniature tree. Something like that. And then grab a crate. And you can set up your snaps to work with this, so you can snap the objects together. But I'm just going for a rough layout. I'm not too worried about it. Well, I don't need to do that. I'm just going to duplicate this one. And then just going to rotate it a bit. Just like that. And I'm going to grab all of these holding shift. Just like that. Grab it and drag it into my environment. There we go. And I want to add recycling grass insert here. We'll have grass patch. So I have grass patch. I'm going to place one there in front of the lamp. You want to shine the light on the grass there. And also with the sun, whatever it wants. I'll have a tree or a rock again. Rock. Actually, just like that. I'll grab fern. I'll place the fern right there. Make a flower. This is exactly what I'm doing. I'll grab some plants. Brush one here. This one there. This one there. Okay. And that's going to be enough for now. And I want to also mess with the lighting a bit because I do not like the lighting we have. So we're going to make it like a night scene. I'm going to do a deeper orange. Just like that. I'm going to turn the intensity down just a bit. Not too much. And then I'm going to duplicate this directional light. I'm going to go to it. And notice how my orange light is, see the rotation of it? I want to rotate this one that I just created a bit this way. Let's see, we're going to make this like our fill light. So we're going to do that. We're going to turn off shadows because we just want it to act as a fill light, not cast any shadows. I'm going to make this a deep purple. Just like that. Turn the intensity down just a bit. And turn the intensity down on this one just a bit. See, something like that. And I'm going to go to my window. I'm going to go to lighting. And in here, I'm going to mess with a few things. First of all, I want fog on. And it's going to be exponential squared. The density is going to be, ooh, no, it's going to be like 0.02. And it's going to be a deep purple. Ooh. And I'm going to turn the ambient intensity down just a little bit. Make the ambient source. For now, we'll make it a color. And it's going to be, let's see. What do you want this to be? I am just messing with the mood of my game at the moment. There's nothing important about this whatsoever. I just find this fun. So we make this like a deep purple, and then we can increase the lighting on that. Decrease the lighting a bit on this purple here. Sounds quite like. It's a bit deeper. It's almost feeling like settings like. Not the greens. Let's get with the color. And one thing I want to do is we're going to mess with this in a little bit when we work on the ambient occlusion and whatnot. But for now, what I want to do is I'm going to set up the light. It's going to be on our lamp post here. If we go to our lamp post, notice it has 3 different materials. One of the materials is the lighting on the lamp itself. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to go to emission. We want this to have like a light source of its own, which we'll put a light in it, like a spotlight in it in a second. But I also want it to emit, right? So if I want to do that, I want to go to my main camera. I want to turn on HDR. Then I want to go back to my lamp post real quick. Go down to emission. I want it to emit a nice, like a deep orange color. Just like that. And we're going to make it above 1, which is how we're going to create a glow effect when we work with the bloom. We can set the threshold on the glow so it doesn't affect anything below 1. But anything above 1, notice it now requires HDR. We're going to have like a glow effect around it, which will be pretty cool. So now to do that, what I would do is I want to import the standard assets. And all I want is the effects package. It's all the built-in image effects. And they're all pretty good, honestly. So I'm going to just import all of those. All right, now that they are loaded in, I'm going to go to my standard assets. And this is all quick and dirty, but you can play around with this and get whatever effect you would like. I'm just going to grab the bloom, just the standard bloom, and drop it on my main camera. Notice you already get a glow effect on that because the threshold is pretty low. No, we want to go too high. We just want to get a nice glow effect around that. Increase the intensity on it a bit if you wanted to. Just however you want to do it. We're also going to have the crystals that you saw in the demo in the cave. And I'll set those up real quick. Just like that. And I'm going to grab what I just placed and put that in the environment. And now I have my crystals here. And what I should have done actually is each one has a material on it, and I want to update this material the same way we did last time. And I'm just going to make it a nice blue, just like that. And once again, I can increase this to increase the amount it affects the gloom. But I'll just do a nice subtle glow. Just like that. I would also like to grab the color correction curves. Again, not important, but it's fun for the level design. Drop it on my main camera. And I'm going to see the reds here. We got a bit too much red, right? So let's knock out some of the red. Just like that. And I like to increase some of the blues. Not that much, let's see. Oh, no, actually, it's a little much. Too much now. Just a little bit of change there. And green, that's actually anyway. But I'd like to, let's see. Just something like that. Just play around with it and get what you like. And I'm going to grab this, grab the ground grass texture. And what I would like to do is, if I can come in close on these grass blades here, the grass. Oh wow, that really changes the whole thing, doesn't it? Because of the it's not grabbing the right color. I don't know what's going on there. Because clearly this is green, right? There we go. I don't know what I was doing. There we go. That's fine. That'll work. Just grab a rock large tall. And now then we're going to put it right here. And in front of that, we're going to place a sign. Just a blank sign that comes with it. And we can use this as an interaction object. That's good. And I'll add a fern with some grass. All right, beautiful, right? Beautiful. Grab a treasure chest, and I'm going to place it in this cave. Get around. Get out. Looks fine. I don't like the angle of the lighting that I have here. I'm going to grab this because we're creating shadow where we should not be. There we go. I like that a bit more. Then we can use this to... There we go. That looks better. And then I want to grab my lamppost, which this is why you like some more organization than this. I'm going to grab lamppost. And inside of lamppost, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a light. I'm going to add a spotlight. I'm going to raise it up here. Push it over. What's the orientation we got going on? Okay, so it's going to be rotated just like that. Then we're going to rotate on the X 90 degrees. And we're going to put it, let's put it at 0, 0, 0 to start out with. Just like that. I'm going to bring it out and then bring it up. Put it right below this light. We're not going to put it in it because we don't want to disable the shadows for this mesh. So we're just going to put it right below it for now. And then I'm just going to up the spot angle a bit on it. Just like that. And make the light color just like that. You bring it out a little bit. Okie dokie. It looks fine. And then I would like to, let's see, let's grab these crystals because a bit more glowy there. And also what I'd like to do is I'm going to go in here and I want to add just a light. Let's add a point light right in here, just in this area to create a bit of a light, like it's shining off of these crystals. And we could say, yeah, shadows are fine. It's an interesting look. Okay. Looks fine. What I would like to do now, bunch of tweaking. I want to just lower that and then grab this and lower it a bit just to give it a there we are. Looks fine. And I want to say we are done with the environment for now. I'm sure most of that I cut out or fast forwarded because that was quite boring, I'm sure. And quickly I would like to just, oh goodness, that right there, increase the intensity a little bit. Something like that looks pretty good. And there's the environment. I'm going to create an empty real quick. Call it lighting. This is going to be environmental lighting, not anything inside of an object itself. Just for me to put that in. Okay, looks good, looks good. And I want to create an empty for the player. Quit doing that, please. I'm going to call it player. And within player, we're going to create a cube. And I want to call it player model or something, whatever it will be. And player took on a weird rotation. We got too much bloom. It's fine. It'll work. I never claimed to be an artist. Okay, so it's going to be our player. And I'm going to materials, create a new material, called player material. Just going to drop it on the player model. And we're going to make him, let's see. Oh, I don't know. Just a blue color. And that's fine, it's fine. And that will be all we need to do for that. And now the fun stuff. I want to create a scripts folder. Go to folder, name it scripts. And the first thing I want to create, I want to create the system that we use to detect interactions in the world. So if I want to click on something, I want to know where I'm clicking in the world, what I'm clicking on, and then what to do based on what I'm clicking on. So I'm going to go to my scripts folder, create a new script file, C#, obviously. And I'm going to call this world, let's see, world interaction. And world interaction is going to handle sending out the raycast from our mouse from the camera, intersecting in the world somewhere, figuring out what it hit, and then telling something else to handle it depending on what it hit. So let's open this up in Visual Studio and get started. All right, now we are in world interaction. I want to set up, first of all, the method that's going to handle checking, oh, I cannot type, checking what we're interacting with. It's going to handle grabbing the camera, sending out a ray, and doing something with the information we get back. And then also in my update method, we're going to check for mouse input. In this game, we're just going to be using the left mouse button for the only input, but if you're using like an input manager or something, make sure you set it up to work with your input system. But for this, we're just going to be using the simple input.get mouse button 0. We're going to be using get mouse button down. And so we're sending out an array, but we're also going to have some UI elements, right? And we want to be able to click on the UI in the game. Click on a button, click on an item in the game without it sending an array to the world and interacting with something in the background. That's really annoying, right? So if I'm trying to look at my inventory and I'm scrolling through the list of items and I click on an item, it'll also like make my character walk to wherever I clicked in the world behind it. So we don't want to do that. We also want to check if get mouse button down 0, which is the left mouse button, and also If not, we're going to go through the Unity engine real quick. .event systems. Go through the event systems namespace. Grab event system. The class. And then inside of event system, we want current, which is the current instance of the event system that we're using in our game. And then the method we're looking for is pointer over game object. And that's going to see that if we are hovering over the UI or not. If we are not, it's fine. It's saying, okay, you're not trying to click on the UI, so do whatever you were doing. But if we are clicking on a button on the UI, it's going to stop right there, and it's never going to send an array into the world, which is exactly what we want. And then I'm going to call get interaction. Get interaction. Done. So now all we have to do is handle our logic inside of get interaction, and we're good to go. The first thing I want to do is I want to create an array that's sent out from the mouse point when we click on in our screen space, right? So within our viewport, I'm going to click over here somewhere. I want to take that coordinate of the mouse, send out array into the world, and intersect with an object in the world. To do that, I want to grab, first set up an array, and I want to call it, I keep saying an array, set up array. It's hard to say that without saying array. Set up array with, I'm going to call it interaction array is fine. And we're going to set up the array that camera.main. So go through the camera class, grab the main property, which will give us a reference to the camera in game that is tagged with main camera. And I'm going to use the method screen point to ray. It's going to take the screen point that we pass it, in this case the mouse position, cast a ray from it in the forward direction of the camera, and it's going to be input.mouse position. And that's all we need to set up the ray, right? We have to set up the ray cast still, but the ray's there. And I want a way to store the information that we get back. Oh, we have an error up here. What is this? Oh, sorry. This is actually a method, and I was treating it like it wasn't. So I want a way to store the information that we get back so we can look and see what we got, right? And to do that, this is just typical raycast stuff. I'm going to do raycast hit, which is something we can output the information from our raycast to. So raycast hit, I'm going to call it interaction info. And now it's set up our raycast. So it's going to be a true or false, just a boolean. So we're going to do an if, and we're going to set up the raycast with physics.raycast. And we're going through the physics class, grabbing the raycast method. And this is going to handle sending out the ray that we already set up here. It took this ray, we're going to send it into the raycast there. It's going to handle the information and then give us the information back that it finds. So I want to pass it, I'm going to pass it my interaction ray as the first parameter. The second parameter, I'm going to pass it my raycast hit object. So I'm going to output the information to this. So out, and then interaction info. So take the information it got and send it out to the interaction info object, which is a raycast hit object. And then it wants to know how far should the ray go. And we want it to go until it hits something. So what I'm going to do is just make sure it never stops until it hits something. So I'm going to go through the math class, which is the math class that comes with Unity, not the math class of .NET. And then grab infinity, which is just what it sounds like. And now, oops. Inside of the raycast, I first want to set up a game object. So game object type. And I'm going to call it interacted object. This is going to store the object that we hit. So we're going to hit an object with a raycast. And we're going to grab that object and store it in interacted object so we can do something with it later on. It's going to be equal to interaction info, which is what we called our raycast hit, interaction info, dot collider. So I'm going to go through that. It now has information about the object to hit, so we can use that, go to the component of collider, which is the same as get component collider, but we're just using the shorthand collider. And then I want to grab another shorthand for game object. So we want the game object of the collider that our array hit. And that's all we have there. So now interacted object is the object that we hit if we hit something. If we didn't, then this doesn't equal out to anything and it's just done. Okay, so now we have a couple of options. We have an object that we hit, but we want to know what we hit, and we need to know what to do with what we hit. And a way we can check is we can tag things in the game with certain attributes. So if we were to, we want to know if it's an interactable object. And if it is, we can tag all interactable objects with interactable object. That way we can check and see, is this an interactable object? Because if it is, do something different with it than we would if it was not. If it's not, say, it's just the ground, right? All we want to do is walk to wherever we clicked. But if it's not the ground, we want to do something with it, walk up to it and talk to it, walk up to it and attack it, walk up to it and pick it up, whatever it is. So we want to check to see. So I'm going to do conditional, I'm going to say if the interacted object that we just got, if the tag on that object, and we'll go over that in a second, but the tag on that object is equal to, and I can just set it to anything that's a string, I'm going to say interacted object. So if it is in fact an interactable object, oh, I say interacted, I mean interactable, then we want to do something with that object. We don't have anything set up to do anything with it. So we're just going to keep it like that and say, we're just going to log out something interactable, interacted. If it's not an interactable object, we want to do something else with it. So we're just going to do a simple else. And if it's not, we want to just move our player, right? So now we're at the point where we want to set up player movement. And the movement in our game is going to be based on where we click the mouse, he's going to walk there. But what if he has to walk around a wall? What if he has to walk through a door? We want to make sure that he doesn't walk through the wall. We want to make sure that he can walk around the wall. So we have to set up pathfinding. And in Unity 5, the nav mesh that comes with Unity is no longer a pro feature only. So we can work with that directly in Unity, and it's very, very simple. So we're going to go back to Unity, and we're going to set this up so that we can start pathing, which is a lot of fun. First of all, I'm going to save my scene before something happens and I lose everything. I'm just going to call it test, just like that. And what we have to do first is we have to tell the pathing engine that the objects that we're feeding it are static, which means they're not going to move during gameplay. So it knows, okay, these objects are here. I can be sure they'll be here later on too. That way it doesn't have any surprises later on. It's going to build the nav mesh around these objects. So if they move in the game, we'll have to update the nav mesh, which is for a different tutorial. So for this, we're going to make sure everything's static, that we want the player to be able to walk on and around, and that's all we have to worry about. So I'm just going to grab, I guess it'd be everything in my environment, really. Yeah, it would be. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go to Window, go to Navigation. It's going to open it up over here, for me at least. And I'm going to go to Mesh Renderers. It's going to just show me all the mesh renderers, which all of these blue ones I know are prefabs, which means I placed them from my inspector. So I know all of these are going to be things to either walk on or around, which is fine. And I also want the ground. I'm going to select all those, and I can turn this on by saying navigation static. Now all of these are navigation statics, which means they cannot move in the game or to mess up the navigation. And they're all set to walkable, which obviously that's not what we want, right? So what I want to do is I want to grab the ground first of all and say, okay, the ground is walkable. I know that. But I know that's not walkable. These aren't walkable. That's walkable. No, it's not. These aren't walkable. And you'd probably do this as you're building the game out, as you're building the level out. But for me, obviously we don't care about the lid, just the base. The plant can be walkable. That's fine if it wants to be. And that. Yeah, so these can be walkable. They're just flowers. We have everything selected, and I want to turn this to not walkable, which means these will be cut out in the nav mesh that it generates. And that's exactly what I want. So with that set up, I'm going to go to bake. I'm going to leave the settings as they are because it should work fine with our map. And I'm going to click bake. And depending on the size of your map, this will take a while. But notice for me it was pretty quick. Okay, so what I see here, I'm going to go to advanced. I'm going to do a manual node size or voxel size. And what it says is to keep it between 2 and 4 voxels per agent radius. It's a suggestion. We're at 3 so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this down a bit, which is going to up my voxels. So put it at 0.15. Put it at 3.33. If I bake with those settings, see what happens. Alright, so nothing changed. I also want to lower the max slope because we don't want to walk up a 45-degree angle. Let's bake that. I'm not sure what it's cutting out there. I mean, honestly, that won't be noticeable in our game. He's going to be walking around. You're not going to see that he's not going to be able to walk in that area there. But I'm just curious as to what's happening. Let's just make this ridiculous real quick. Make it low amount of voxels. But the mesh looks pretty good other than that. Notice he can't walk on the mountain. He can walk up to a certain point, but on the mountain he can't actually get on the sides of it. And if you don't know exactly what a nav mesh is, the blue area you're seeing is the nav mesh, and that's where nav agents in the pathing system, that's where they're allowed to path to. So it's exactly what we want. So if I click somewhere on the blue area, he can walk there. If I click somewhere not on the blue area, he can't walk there. And these are areas that he can path around to get to other places. Just to show you real quick, we're going to set that up. I'm going to go back into my inspector. Let's go back to all. I'm going to go to my player. On player, I'm going to add a nav mesh agent. Okay, nav mesh agent. Remove the box collider from my player model. Don't need that. So a nav mesh agent, first of all, let's set up the collider on the agent. Let's make it 1. And was it negative 0.5? I'm sorry, 0.5, not negative 0.5. 0.5. And that's going to be our collider. And all of this is fine for now. These are the settings for the agent to walk on his path. The speed he walks, the speed turns around, how quickly he gets to his max speed, and how far away from his destination he stops. And these are all things we'll be messing with in our controller, so don't worry too much about that right now. So now that our player has the nav agent on him, world interaction is also going to be on our player. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set up a nav mesh agent. That's the type of object. I'm going to call it player agent. And in start, we're going to say player agent is equal to get component nav mesh agent. And it's going to grab the component on our player nav mesh agent. And if you're confused by this, this tutorial series is probably going to be too advanced for you. So check out some of my other stuff on the channel or any other things on YouTube. There's tons of tutorials out there. So with player agent, with that reference we have, if it is not an interactable object, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say player agent, and we can set the destination, right? So it's going to be the target location for our player to walk. And what that's going to do is it's going to generate a path from our player agent to the target location. It's going to path around the obstacles it can't walk on, and then it's going to start moving our agent along that path, turning it, steering it, depending on the direction it's going. It's all going to handle that for us, and we don't have to do much at all, really. So I'm just going to set player destination to the interacted object. No, not interacted object. It's going to be interaction info. Interaction info dot point. And that's the point on the object that we clicked It's going to be just a simple X, Y, and Z point. And so our destination is going to be that point. And he's going to move his way there. So if we were to go back into here, grab world interaction, I'm going to take that, drop it on my player, and let's see what happens. Oh, we got an error, of course. Oh, right. What we're doing is we're checking the event system, the current one, to see if we're on top of it when we click, but we don't have one because we don't have any UI in the game yet. So quickly, I'm just going to create, just for that purpose, I'm going to create UI, and I want to go down to just canvas, and that's going to create an event system for us, as you can see there. And we don't have to use it for anything right now. It's just so that we don't get that error. And when I click play, and I click on the ground, my player moves to wherever I clicked. It's a little slow, a little sluggy. So let's grab my player. And I'm going to turn the speed up to like 8. And the angular speed, the speed at which it rotates, is important to me because it looks like it's too slow. So I'm going to do like 500. And acceleration is also quite important. So I'm going to do something like 20. See how that is. It's not bad. Okay, so the grass has a collider on it, as you can tell from that. So it's not, we don't need that. Let's go down to my grass patch square, remove the mesh collider. Grass patch square, grass patch square, and grass patch square. That's fine. And click play. And I can move, and look at this. I'm going to click over there. He's going to make his way around. Why does it still have a collider? Oh, did it generate a bump in the nav mesh? That's interesting. It did. Alright, so we can fix that. So I'm going to go back into here, take this. It's walkable. Oh, that's fine. Let's just rebake everything and see if we get rid of that. Just going to turn off the nav mesh generation for these all together. As you can tell, it's not necessary. I'll just bake that again. And that should flatten us out there. Looks good. And click play. Walk over that. Everything's fine. He goes where I tell him to go. He goes up the hill in the cave. Looks good. The lighting in there looks really cool. I like it. And that is our character movement. Now in the next part, we're going to work with our interactions to interact with objects. So I click the crate, something happens. Have an NPC in the world, something happens with that when I click on it. Maybe the sign, maybe the chest. You get the idea. So it's going to be in the next part. This part was kind of long, but we covered quite a bit. If you like this series so far, if you like where we're going with this, be sure to let me know in the comments of this video. If you have any suggestions that are within scope, and imagine a pretty small scope, very simple RPG ideas, I'd love to hear them, guys. Thank you for watching. My name is Austin, and I will see you next time.